Today, I want to talk about drum editing, which could be a hotly debated topic. We'll find out just depending on what side of the fence that you fall on. You could be a purist who thinks a great take is a great take. Do not touch it. Let the performer perform. Or you could be someone transparently like me, thinking that pretty much everything should be on the grid for the most part because the kick and the snare is really, really important in most modern music, and everybody's used to hearing the kick and the snare basically being right on time, especially with a lot of drums these days being virtual instruments, using MIDI, just quantizing it and locking it right in. And I used to also edit drums professionally, and I would hear it time and time again that even with really good players, just locking in the drums on the grid just created a really solid foundation for the rest of the production, and it just comes out sounding cleaner and more polished. However, I have been editing some drums for a track that has been driving me crazy. So the drum performance itself was good. However, once I edited the drums, it just felt wrong. It didn't feel right. And so I want to talk about that today. When do you edit and when do you not edit? Because again, it all comes down to the ears. Just because someone says you should do something like me, like, oh, edit your drums and here's how you should edit it, you need to also listen. Sometimes the song is asking you not to do it. Sometimes the feel of the song being a little off, being a little fast, being a little slow, and that push-pull makes a track, and you have to really listen and see what your gut's telling you, because I'm having that issue right now. I went through and edited these drums. I'm going to jump in and show you. And I went on my default, just edit, and I spent time editing, and it just never felt right, and I couldn't figure out what it was, and I just went ahead and I just got rid of all the edits and listened to the raw drum track again, and I was like, you know what? This just feels better. I don't find this happens often, but sometimes you just have to take it for what it is. Sometimes you don't have to work so hard to make your production sound good. I'm going to show you what that means right now in a live session that I'm working on. Let's do this. Now, before we jump into this, there is one thing that I would say you should always be editing at some degree, sometimes more heavy-handed than others, and that is the vocals, because vocals in most music is the most important thing. And if you get that wrong, well, your whole production falls apart. And believe it or not, every vocal probably needs a little bit of editing. So if you want to know how to edit vocals like a professional, A to Z, then you got to go on the link in the description below, click on it, head over to my website, Song Production Pros, and check out what resources I have available for you right now on how to make sure that your vocals shine. And this is great for people who may be a little timid behind the microphone. Maybe you're recording and you're not really getting what you think should be in your head coming out of the speakers. It could be a little bit of editing that can just clean that right up and give you some magical moments in your vocal production. So go check that out. All right, let's jump into this session. All right, so here's a session I'm working on right now, and I'm editing up the drums for this song called Curious Mind. It's a fast song, 184 beats per minute, 2/4 time signature. So it moves. And this is where the challenge of this song is coming into play for me, because the main rhythm of the drums really comes from the hi-hat pattern, the ride pattern, and the tom pattern, which I'm going to show you here in a second. And normally, when I'm editing drums, I am not touching cymbals. I'm only touching the shells. So like the close mics of a kick, a snare, and some toms, and that's what I'm touching. Never touch overheads. I don't touch hi-hats. I don't touch those things. I group it all together, so when I move things around, everything stays aligned, but I will not actually time those things. And that becomes a challenge when you have a drum track, which I'll just show you here, where you have a pattern like this. And patterns like this. Or like this. You have a lot of movement in the hi-hat, the ride, and to time it becomes really tricky, because not only do you have kick and snare patterns that are so close together, but you have this really fast rhythm going in between it. So when you start moving these things around, you're messing with the overheads and the hi-hats in a way that's not very natural, and I'll show you what happens. So here's my edit, and you can see everything's pretty much just deadlock on the grid. For when it comes to the kick, we got our snare here. Where is my snare? I moved around these things because I was trying to look at certain tracks, but you can see it's pretty much just right on the money. So normally I'd be like, okay, it's probably going to sound good. Normally it does. It will lock the groove in. But just listen to this against the track and see how it feels. Let's go to the verse because this is where I really hear it.
It always rhymes, it beats in time. These rhythms grind my bones away, my bones away.
I mean, it's, put the click on it. It's locked in, but it just feels too boom clap. It's just too robotic. It just doesn't feel right. And that's what I was getting with this track. And I just like, man, doesn't capture the essence. And so I just went ahead and I created a track that didn't time. And this is what it sounds like.
It always rhymes, it beats in time. These rhythms grind my bones away, my bones away.
You can see how these hits are just not quite on the money, but
Pass my days in formal ways to only outrage my curious mind. My curious mind, my curious mind, my curious mind, my curious mind.
so this goes to show you have to use your ears. I edit my drums like 98% of the time and it always works for me. But this is a case where you just have to get a good performance, and that good performance can carry the production. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about drum editing. Now, to prove the point that editing can be good and you should consider it and do it, I'm gonna show you right here in this track, Breathing, that I'm working on. This is of a production session, so don't mind the messiness of it. So here's the drums. I have my track right here that's all edited up, and then this is pretty much right here, the same track, not edited. I'll play the track that's edited, and we'll go from there. I'll just play this section right here.
Early with the sunrise, the birds sing harmonies. You point up and join them, all-time bedside symphonies. Time floats in on an old memory, reminding us to breathe. Breathe this in, breathe this in, before the moment flees. You point up and join them, all-time bedside symphonies. Time floats in on an old memory, reminding us to breathe. Breathe this in, breathe this in, before.
So this one is subtle. The drummer that I worked with was fantastic. So I mean, there's not really a whole lot to complain about with the performance itself. With this song being a little slower, there's more elements in it. You hear the tambourine. What I'm thinking is I want those things to hit like together. I want them to be together and not flam. And so creating a solid drum beat that's timed to the grid, it doesn't offend me. It feels good. And then when I go to record other things on top of it, you tambourine hit, you can easily get it to just align and hit at the same time. And then for other instruments, you don't have to do as much editing because then you just perform over it and you lock into that groove, and then those instruments can create more of that movement that's not so robotic. Like if you hear the shakers and everything in here, just the performance.
I'm floating on an old memory, reminding us to breathe. Breathe this in, breathe this in, before the moment flees.
And again, it's very subtle, but there's some things that just feel like a little bit off when it's not timed. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Like, do you edit? Do you not edit? At what extent do you take your editing? Do you go crazy and want everything perfect? Or you just kind of, pick and choose what it is you're editing? Again, this really comes down to using your ears. It's not always easy. Sometimes you just get into like production mindset and you just do what you think you should be doing and you just go for it without really thinking or listening to what's best for the song. That's the trap I fell into. It happens. At the end of the day, you want the music to feel good and you want to make the performance sound as best as it possibly can. Again, editing always starts with a good performance. Get a good performance first, and then the editing is just a sweetening instead of like really trying to mangle and fix something that really wasn't that good to begin with. So always focus on the performance first. Use editing to polish it and make it fit into the track. And the amount that you do just depends on your comfort level and what you're looking for out of your song. I usually find for drums, getting the kick and the snare on grid just locks in the groove, so everything else can then layer on top of it, and you don't have to do as much editing with those as long as you get your performance right. So again, let me know in the comments below your thoughts on this. Let me know what you thought on the A/B test of these two songs, and hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.